Man, Bill, we could talk marketing with Gary all day, couldn't we?
You know, with Gary, it's kind of like riding a wave, man. You just throw out a topic and you just hang on because he can go all over the place. And it's just so much fun to talk to him and just kind of see how his brain works. So really enjoyed that one, Jared.
Yeah, no, me too. I mean, he's definitely a guru in the marketing space, dental marketing space. I mean, so many metrics, that they kind of look at and monitor to make, dental practices improve the marketing. So you guys are going to really enjoy this one. Gary Bird with SMC National. Enjoy.
Welcome to Dental Momentum, the podcast dedicated to lively discussions on business and financial strategies tailored for dental business owners. At Duckett Ladd, we're committed to transforming your business journey and supporting you at every stage. Join us as we delve into the keys to long-term practice success, from cutting-edge accounting and strategic tax planning to personalized business strategies. Together, let's propel your dental practice forward with unstoppable momentum.
All right, Gary, man, I wanted to jump in and just ask this big question right at the beginning, man. You're just walking to some random dental office, right? Walking to a dental practice, you look at the marketing dashboard. What's that first number that you check to tell whether that practice is actually healthy or just busy?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I'm going to look at their rate of growth of new patients over the last 24 months, maybe 36 months. And the reason for that is if you've been averaging, 40 new patients a month for the last 3 years, you are taking home substantially less money as a dentist.
Unpack that. What do you mean?
So we're in this weird phase in America, and I think in the dental world as well, seeing a similar parallel with this is that, you guys travel, right? So you go to these third world countries, and what do you see? You see these tourist areas where 10% of the population is like uber rich, and then the other 90% are like dirt poor. And that's a lot of the world is set up that way. And they don't, there's some middle class, but there's not there's not like America where it's 80% middle class. And then there's like 5% of, lower, poorer. And then you got that 10% richer or whatever. Well, in America, that's starting to shift. You have the rich are getting much richer, and there's a lot more people every day. There's more millionaires being made. And then, but also at the same rate, the bottom end is growing too, which means you're shrinking the middle class, which is horrible for business, like horrible, because the middle class is what allows us to have all of our services, right? You guys are a service. I'm a service. And the only reason that we're able to be in business is because we got a bunch of like really healthy middle class, upper middle class people who are buying dentistry that create upper class dentists who are able to afford services. So that's disappearing in America, like right before our eyes. And that impacts dentists because there's less patients buying less treatment, and they're just not able to spend as much. Insurance is reimbursing less. So insurance is figuring out how to make more money by doing less and paying less to the dentist. Plus just the cost of goods are up. Labor's up. Like labor's through the roof just to keep up with inflation, which it's not even close to keeping up. But labor for everybody, like how much are you paying for a hygienist versus 2019? I don't know if you guys have looked at the inflation numbers, but we've lost, if you made $100,000 in 2019, today you have to be making $125,000 to have the same buying power. That's a big chunk in 5 years. So, and it's not slowing down. The government just opened back up, they're saying, and it wasn't for spend more or spend less. It was spend more or spend a lot more, right? Like there's nobody's wants to cut the budget right now. So what do we do about that? Like, how do we solve that? And the reason that I would look at new patients is that's the lifeblood of a practice. A lot of dentists get in these situations where they fix all their patients' problems that they see, which is awesome. And they build out a massive hygiene department. But there's no more work left unless they want to do cosmetic dentistry and really like veneers or aligners, or you run out of dentistry to do. And the lifeblood that keeps that practice going is your new patients. And if you're doing exactly what you did in 2021, 2022, you're probably making the same total amount of dollars, but you're the one taking the haircut. The business owner is the one that's taking the haircut. They're taking less checks, less money home, still probably making a good living, but not what they were before. So The only solve to this, and I know dentists, what do they want to do? They want to cut. They're optimizers. They're bottom line thinkers. Like, how do I cut? But you can't. Unfortunately, because of inflation, you can't cut your way out of this. You have to grow your way out of it. That's the only way towards that, and that means you have to get more new patients, and you have to help the new patients accept more treatment.
So let's go back to Jared's just hypothetical practice you hop into. Let's say single doc practice, 5 or 6 ops, whatever. Standard solo doc. I mean, what should that number be?
Well, it depends. How fast is the dentist? How clinically skilled? How many different kinds of clinical procedures can they do?
Yeah.
And how is their hygiene model set up, all that kind of stuff. So that depends. But a normal, like most of these like fee for service offices out there that are probably on Facebook land, they're probably seeing 20 new patients a month.
Yeah.
Maybe 15. And they could realistically see, or might need to see 40 before they do anything else to figure out how to get back to where they were again 2019. Or if they're a newer doc, just bought the practice, that might be a different story because they're still figuring out what they want to be, how the speed and all those kind of things are going to play a factor there.
So jump in, Gary. Like, how do they get those new patients? This is high level thinking here, but like, how do they get those new patients? I mean, maybe they think they're doing well already. It's like, Gary, man, I'm grabbing 40 new patients a month. I've done that for 3 years straight or whatever.
Yeah.
What do they do to uptick that?
Yeah, so if you want to uptick your new patients, you have to. This is interesting. There's actually more of a demand than there is a supply, and dentists do not like hearing this because they look around and they go, "All these dentists out there." But if you go to the ADA, the average time to appointment to see a dentist is 2 to 3 weeks. It's floating in between that 2 to 3 weeks mark, which is way too long. Way too long. And so you want same day, next day is ideally 72 hours, like at the max. So so the first thing you need to do is open up your schedule. And the way you open up your schedule is you use block scheduling where you have an abundance of openings every single day and you're not going to use all of them and they're for new patients. Now, if you have empty ops and you have hygienists running all day, right? So if you have multiple hygienists, then what you can do is you can have people seeing the hygienist all day and going, "Oh, looks like the doctor might need to look, got something going on here." And then you do a lot more same day treatment. That is the fastest way to boost your production because nobody wants to go back to the dentist multiple times. Like no one. Yeah. So if I can get my work done today, you're much faster at getting that yes right out of the box. So that's like the easiest way to do to help your practices grow, to get more production. Not necessarily, you don't even have to see more new patients with that model, but as you start to see more new patients, you're going to get more from them because most practices are punting that treatment out.
So let's go back to your comment, kind of talking about the widening ranges on the end. Usually it's a bell curve, but it feels like it's almost kind of inverting in some ways from where it was.
Yeah.
So kind of equate that to general economic in terms of treatment acceptance. What we tend to hear a lot is that people just aren't accepting the treatment. So let's say you do raise that number, they come in, you schedule same day treatment. I mean, what do you do to convert, man, to get them to say yes, and if they're struggling?
Yeah, it's interesting because what we explained, what's happening in America is also happening in our businesses. Like for me, we're figuring out, okay, well, if dentists don't want to spend more money in marketing to grow, we need to learn how to use AI to get more for less, right? So that's one way you can do it. That's more the bottom line thinker way. Dentistry is kind of protected from AI right now, but that means you can't use that model too, right? Like you can use it a little bit to your advantage, like with marketing or maybe legal stuff or different things like that. But you're not going to be able to. You have to grow your way out of it. And then the patients are also facing the same thing. So yes, they got a raise since COVID, but how much more is groceries since COVID? You know what I mean? How much more is rent since COVID? Et cetera, et cetera. I was just having a conversation with somebody about, rent in my area, and they were a younger person, and I was like, "Oh yeah, when I had this house 5 years ago, I was paying this," and they were like, "What?" Like 5 years ago, they're blown away. I feel like an old guy, you know what I mean? They're like, "That is crazy that you had that." And so we were talking through that, and just like it's insane, right? So what do we do? How do we actually fix that for the patient? And the answer is, it's actually really simple. You have to use patient financing. I'm a huge fan of Cherry. So what makes Cherry very unique is that basically everybody gets a yes. If you have to be like really messed up credit wise not to get a yes, but it might only be for $500 or it might only be for $1,000. And so what happens is the patient gets a yes. You tell the patient, okay, hey, look, Mr. Patient, you got $5,000 worth of treatment. We can break this up into whatever monthly payment that you can afford. And they go, well, I can only afford $200 a month. Perfect. Because this is important to you, right? You understand why this is going to impact your oral health and your whole body health, right? Yes. Okay, great. So it's $5,000 worth of treatment. You qualify for $500. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the first phase of this done. And I'm going to phase this out. You're going to do the $500. Cherry's going to pay for it. You're going to pay $200 a month for the next 2.5 months. Once that's paid off, Cherry extends your credit line because now you have a relationship with them. So now they're going to give you $1,000. So now when you get that $1,000, you're going to come back and we're going to do phase 2.
Just kind of building credit here, if you will.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're building your credit and reputation with an individual company that trusts you now. And so now you're going to get $1,000 and you can still do that $200 a month, right? Yeah. Great. So now we're going to do that. We're going to stage 2. You're going to pay that 5 months. And then guess what? They're going to come back and guess what? They're going to get $2,000 now. And now you're getting close to finishing the treatment plan. They love you. You've gotten all the money up front. Now, dentists don't like this because you have to pay a fee for it. But what most people miss is you're already paying, 3% on credit card processing?
Yeah.
So are you going to pay a couple points above that? Yes, you are. However, you're going to get way more yeses and your production's going to go up. I was just looking at a case study of one of our clients. Her average yearly production per patient, collections per patient was $1,600. She started doing this with Cherry and went to $3,000 per patient. She didn't add nothing else. She didn't add anything else. I work with another dentist that does this, and he went from $200,000 in production to $500,000 in production over 12 months. Spent a lot of money on marketing, but this was like the main crux of the production and collections spike was using this model. And the main trick to this, it's called saving versus setting. So if you're trying to save the account with patient financing, it comes off super car salesman-y. So meaning if I come in and the patient goes, yeah, I can't afford this. And you're like, oh, yeah, it's $5,000. And they say, I can't afford this. And then you go, oh, well, we can do patient financing after you already did the whole song and dance. It feels like you're trying to save it. It comes off very like bait and switch. You know what I mean? And it's not really good. I don't think dentists really even like that. But that's how most dentists train their team to use patient financing because they don't want to pay the fee. And so I don't even know if dentists realize that their team's coming off this way in most cases.
Go back to what you said there real quick. You said save, and what was the other thing?
Setting. So the setting side, yeah. Saving versus setting. So most dentists do the save. Patient walks in the room with the treatment coordinator. Doctor said you need this $5,000 treatment. And then they just kind of sit there. And then the patient's like, okay, instead of saying I can't afford it, they go, let me get back to you on that. Mm-hmm. Well, we can give you 10% off for cash. So it's just basically the same thing. You know what I mean? And that's...
So you kind of answered my 2-part question I was going to ask, which is why are dentists opposed to financing? And then number 2, how do you recommend I'm going to use the word market, make that external facing to the patients? Meaning, do they need to see that right when they come in the door, or how's that work?
No. So it's very simple. So if you're the patient, Jared, I'm going to say, okay, Jared, you got this treatment plan. You understand what doctor said, and you understand how this is going to impact your oral health and your overall health, right? Doctor explained that. And this is like in your best interest. You want to get this done, right? Yeah. Okay, great. Well, we can get you done. We can get it started today. And we have a couple options. So number 1 is you can pay $200 a month. Number 2, you can pay in like on a credit card or something like that. That's going to be $5,000. Or if you pay cash, we give a 10% cash discount at $4,500. So now you have 3 options to pick from. And the $200 option is kind of a made up number because we don't know your credit, we don't know any of that. But because of products like Cherry, you can just say, okay, well, let's figure it out. And now I know your number, the threshold that you're comfortable with, and you can have a conversation. It's very similar to like how other industries do it. Like, what are you looking for on a monthly payment, like cars or other things that you go and get? And then they back into that. Dental has to do this. People can't, you don't have the luxury of not being able to do this anymore. And here's the beautiful part about it. Most dentists aren't doing it.
Yeah.
So that gives you a competitive advantage. And then you said, well, how do I get patients to do this? And this is really going to tick dentists off. But what you do is you make things that are price transparent super competitive, and then you make things that aren't price transparent more expensive. So what I mean by that is if you and I did a Google search right now anywhere and said dental cleaning, you're going to get a range of dental cleanings all over your market. It's going to be $99. If you're in Utah, it might be as low as $29. Certain parts of Florida, $29. Some dentists see that and they're like, oh. And it's like, well, it's super competitive there. Other places, it's $129 is like the cheapest cleaning that you're going to be able to find. Now, dentists say, I don't want those kind of patients. I don't want somebody who wants a reasonable price cleaning. The funny part is that I've done this in like big audiences before. I'm like, who here gets their oil changed? They all, everybody except for the Tesla drivers these days raise their hand. And I'm like, how much do you pay for your oil change? $99. How much do you pay for yours? $59. How much do you pay for your $39, $100 to $199? It's different all over the United States, depending on the market. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, do you think those mechanics make money at $99 on the oil, the labor, the insurance, the marketing, the person that answered the front, the call at the front? No, you guys know business. They don't. They don't make nothing. They lose money on the oil change, if anything. Well, why do they do that then? Well, because there's price transparency for oil changes everywhere. It's like it's been commoditized to nothing. And same with like dental cleanings, exam and x-rays and things like that. So you want to be hyper competitive with those. And then the question you should be asking is not, are these shoppers versus not shoppers? Because all patients are shoppers, just like all dentists are shoppers. The question is do they have the resources to afford dentistry, or at least the credit to afford a small monthly payment? And if the answer is yes to that, those are the areas you want to target. And unfortunately, there's parts in some areas that people don't have money to even afford $100 a month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you don't want to target those areas because that's not going to work. And then what you do is you bring them in, and then your other fees can be whatever. Like, how much is it to replace tires or a motor in a certain car or a radiator or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, we have no idea, but we all know how much an oil change is. And patients have no idea how much a crown should be or how much an implant should be or any of those kind of things, but they do know how much a cleaning is. Everybody knows. And if I went into a practice and they were like $400 for a cleaning, I'm not going there. Like, doesn't matter if I have the money to afford it or not. I know down the street there's a great dentist for $99.
Yeah, so going back to that process, saving versus setting, I think you said, which is really interesting. Presumably the people who, are not interested in that or are not going to take that option anyway. They're probably going to take the discount if they can afford it, or they'll put on a credit card to get points. So you're probably not running the risk of incurring fees that you wouldn't have with patients you might not have had, period. Do you see that kind of played out?
There's going to be some, but I think you'll get way more yeses to the upside.
Yeah.
Right? It's like my refrigerator broke. My handle broke on the refrigerator. My kids broke it.
I was going to say, it's your kids, man.
Yeah, I have a group of kids, right? I was like, okay, let me look at refrigerators. So they're like, 2,000, 3,000, whatever, right? And I'm just like, I don't want to replace it. Do I have the money to replace it? Yeah. But do I want to spend it on a refrigerator right now? No. Like my couch, I have a couch. The kids just thrashed it. And I told my wife, till they're all at this age and they can all eat in this way, I'm not getting a new couch. Could I afford a new couch? Yeah. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, deal with it, clean it. Yeah, I'm not spending thousands of dollars. It's a big couch, you know what I mean, in a big living room. I'm not spending thousands of dollars on another couch. But every once in a while, like I just recently replaced my refrigerator because it finally kicked the can. And guess what I did? I went to Best Buy, got a super nice refrigerator, and it's like $120 a month for the next 12 months, interest free.
Right.
It was easy. Like I'll take that every single day. Do I have money in my savings account that I could go pay cash? Yeah. But it was like I got that, I got a treadmill, and I just kind of got it all, you know. I said, all right, I'm just going to bang this all out. Same thing with dental. Like if I don't feel pain and the doctor didn't do a great job of explaining why I don't need to take care of these things, right? Like, or the treatment coordinator didn't do a great job, well, I'll wait till later. And that's what a lot of people are doing. They're waiting till later for the things that they need, not because they can't afford it. Some people can afford it, but some people are like, no, they're prioritizing other things. And so how do you get them to prioritize dental?
Yep.
If you go to a med spa, like no one needs a med spa right now. Like no one. You know what I mean? Like you don't need a med spa. So how do med spas stay in business? You go in and you're like, okay, look, we're going to finance this for you. You're only going to pay this much a month. You want to throw this into, this into, this into. It's only going to be, you know, a couple $100 a month and you get all this stuff. They've gotten really, really good at that. And dentistry hasn't done it. Everybody else has done it, but dentistry has avoided it because of the fees.
So if you're not having inpatient, or not inpatient finance, but patient financing available through Cherry or some other company, whatever, you're missing the boat, basically.
Well, here's the kicker. I've seen the back end of these numbers too. Mm-hmm. Everybody says, oh, we have patient financing. Everybody has patient financing, every office, but they don't use it, and they don't use it properly. And I've seen the numbers. I've seen the people who sign up. I've seen on the back end the usage rate. They'll have like 1 patient, 2 patients a month use it. And it's like, no, you want to be aiming for like 20 to 30% of your production to be coming from that. And when you do that, you're going to notice your production just keeps going up and up and up. And you get the money right away. And you're going to get more treatment through the door. And if you're doing same day treatment at the same time, like now you're really taking your rocket ship.
So go back, well, real quick, just clarify. Gary, you said you want to see 20 to 30% of your production from patient financing. Is that what you said?
You want to get up there, but nobody's doing that.
I don't think I could say a single client.
No, there's nobody. I bet you don't have any. I have very few clients that are there, and I'm like pushing all the time.
So go back to this spectrum. I'm a big spectrum guy. I love to kind of think and the different types of patients, right? Let's say on one end you have the uber wealthy. They're getting wealthier, like you said. You have the middle class, which is kind of pushing towards the outer edges, it sounds like. Then you have the other edge who's, you know, economically or disadvantaged or whatever. Who should dental practice be marketing to, or is that too broad of a question?
No. It's a really good question. And this one catches a lot of people off guard. So this is a great question. So higher income, when you get into the upper higher incomes, they have higher dental IQs. Why? Because more than likely they come from mom and dad home. They were taught through action about the dentist, comfortable with it, et cetera, et cetera. So they've been going to the dentist forever. They probably had braces. You know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff. And so their dental health is going to be way healthier, which means what? You don't need bread and butter dentistry. But what do they want? Well, they might need veneers, or they might need implants, or they might need these upper, end cosmetic, we would call them, elective things that you don't have to have it, but it's nice to have if you want it, right? Makes your teeth look prettier. So that's one category. So if you're a bread and butter dentist and you're like, I want fillings and I want crowns and I want these kind of things, those like upper 10, 15% of the population, they're not going to have those kind of treatments because they've been taking care of their teeth. Now, this is where it gets interesting. When you get into like the middle class, they don't have that, and they haven't been taking care of their teeth, and eventually it catches up with them, and they have a boatload of work, and you stage it, you help them, like you really help it. Like I want to be really clear because sometimes dentists hear me talking and they're like, we're dentists, we're medical professionals, and this guy's just like marketing and sales. I'm not. Like, this person like is suffering. They have a lot of cavities. It's going to turn into root canals. It's going to turn into a lot of pain. It's going to turn into a lot of suffering if you don't help them. And they need somebody to like walk them there because right now it doesn't hurt. but we know what's going to happen because a $500 filling turns into a really expensive root canal, $1,000, $1,500 root canal, which turns into a $6,000 implant. You know what I mean? Like it just like it keeps it doesn't stop. It just keeps getting more and more expensive. So you're actually helping them by beating them to the punch before everything gets really bad. But how do you get them there? You get them there by staging their treatment through what they're able to afford on a monthly basis, and then they love you. They love their smile. They love you. They refer their friends and family. And now you have all the bread and butter dentistry that you can handle for the next 5 years from this one patient, plus they're bringing other people in that are in exactly the same boat. So that's, and then there's obviously like the Medicaid model, and then there's stuff in, but there's like the super GP model in between that, where you're like, we're family focused, but we do all the ancillary, like little moons around the planet, all these other services. Typically those have multiple doctors and, you know, a lot of hygienists, a lot of chairs, and that's a little bit of a different business model. But that's typically like my favorite clients that I like to like work on. Typically they move into that category, into like $500,000 a month in collections, seeing 100 to 200 new patients a month, and 4 doctors, you know, a bunch of hygienists, and a lot of same-day treatment of just like every stripe. Yeah. So that's kind of the end, but not everybody wants that. You don't have to want that.
So let's dive into metrics a little bit here, Gary. Like, let me phrase it like this. Let's say you're bringing on a new patient, you're bringing on a new client, right? And you're going to help them out. What we mentioned new patients, but like what other metrics are you trying to improve? Meaning, if you were talking to a prospective client and they had like X, Y, Z all figured out, you're like, man, I can't help you guys. You guys are, whatever you're doing now is currently working. Like, what are those metrics you want to try to drastically?
So that's a good question. So the first thing we always look at is, can we help this person? So a lot of times, marketing's so interesting, right? So if you're a CMO or a CFO or a CEO or whatever, right? CTO, like no one goes to the CEO and goes, you know what, you should try this new campaign, just, you know, for fun, like anybody in the company. Same with CFOs. No one goes to you guys and goes, hey, you know what, you should try this, you know, crazy wonky thing. Like people aren't going to, they're intimidated by you because they know you might say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. For whatever reason, anybody will say anything to a marketing person like, hey, you should try this. Like they don't care how experienced you are. I don't know why it is. It's always been that way. So everybody's always open to hear about marketing. So we talk to people, like hundreds of dentists, right? And I have my hand in a lot of it because I like seeing this stuff, and I want to know what's going on. So when I see somebody who's like, hey, I'm spending $2,000 a month, I'm seeing 50 new patients a month, you know, we're doing $200,000. What can you guys do? I'm like, dude, have you tried like tripling your marketing budget? Like, no. Well, go try that. See what it does. Do it for 2 months. And then that's when they're, you know, they either say, yeah, we grew a lot. Great. That means everything was working and you don't need us. Like you were just spend a little bit of money and you don't need to like change marketing companies, which is a lot of work. Or they come to us and they say, hey, I'm spending $25,000 a month. I'm seeing 100 new patients. Can you get me to this? And I'm like, well, have you tried upping your budget? Yes. Okay. What happened? Nothing. Okay. Have you tried cutting your budget? No, I haven't tried that. Cut your budget by, you know, not 100% because that will wreck you potentially. But cut it by, you know, 30%, 40% and see what happens. If nothing moves, then that means something's broken and now it's time to make a change. Once we have those numbers, like once somebody has that idea, like, yes, I've already tested those things. I've already tried everything. I've tried upping my budget, cutting my budget, changing things. I don't think this marketing company can get me to where I want to go. The next thing that I want to look at is I want to get actual data from them. So when we onboard them, we plug into their PMS, and we're able to actually see their new patient numbers. And we kind of joke internally. There's in the world of B2B, there's a saying that buyers are liars, and that doesn't mean people are always lying on purpose. It just means that as entrepreneurs, we are very optimistic, right? Like if I said, hey, tell me about your business, you don't even focus on your worst month or worst year. You focus on your best month and your best year, right? Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, this much, right? This many clients. Everybody's that way. So everybody's always like, oh, yeah, I see 100 new patients. And we go, okay, cool. So what's your goal? I want to get to 150. Cool. This is what you're going to need to get to 150. And then we get them in, and it's like you average 60 new patients, and you had one time you hit 100, which is awesome. But that was one time, and it was an outlier. And in January, it looked like probably just a bunch of insurances reset. But you haven't been anywhere close to that ever since. So we're not going from 160 to 150 now. We're going from 60 to 100. And this, like that one thing, like really throws a lot of people off. But you got to get into the PMS and dig into the data to like figure that stuff out. So actually knowing your numbers, like just like what is your, like how many new patients did you actually average? You guys probably do get it with like production and collections and like percentages and things like that where people are just like way off. And so once we have that, then it's like, okay, well, now we can back into a number. And the thing that we look at, and again, dentists don't like this, but this is the proper way to do it, is we want to look at qualified leads. How many qualified leads are you getting for the dollar that you're spending? And a lot of people say, well, how do you know they're qualified? Well, we look at leads first. So marketing companies usually focus on leads. And leads are just like any warm body that's hitting your phone number or a form. Problem with that is they're not all patients or patients that you can see. That counts like Medicaid, even though you don't take Medicaid. It counts ortho if you don't do ortho, right? It counts somebody who called from 6 hours away on accident. You know what I mean? All these things that just don't count. Most marketing companies just look at this and go, oh yeah, your cost per lead is whatever, $100, $50. And it's like, okay, that tells us almost nothing. How many of those were qualified that you could have actually got into the office? So that's like, can they afford treatment of some nature? They're not Medicaid or anything like that, and they're nearby your office, right? That's kind of how we boil that down. So that's a qualified lead. So how many dollars are you paying that are getting you to that qualified lead? And then the next number that I want to look at is what's your cost per scheduled appointment. And the reason that I want these two numbers is it tells me if you have a marketing problem or a front desk problem. If your cost per qualified lead is like $7,000, you got a marketing problem. You know what I mean? That's bad. If your cost per qualified lead is 100 or 120 or 150, you're doing pretty good. Every market's different. I hate even giving numbers on these because people hear it. Like if you're in New York or San Francisco or
so
LA,
Gary, you said you guarantee $100 per qualified.
Yeah,
lead,
that's
right?
what they say. Gary said. And then, yeah, exactly. And so now you got qualified. So you're doing good. Let's say you're at $200 to $100 qualified. You're doing good. But your cost per qualified appointment, qualified patient that appoints, is $700. Now I know you have a front desk problem. So I know exactly where to go and attack and fix that. Then you want to look at what your CAC is. So what is your cost per patient walking through the door? That's different than the one setting an appointment. Because your no-show rate, if you're scheduling 3 weeks out for your marketing new patients, your no-show rate's going to be like 30, 40%. And most people don't know this because they look at the aggregated no-show, meaning patient referrals are going to no-show at like 0% to 10%. Where marketing, if you're putting them 2-3 weeks out, they're going to no-show at 30 to 40%. Well, that's going to put you at an aggregate of 20%. But then if you roll that up with your existing patients which is a lot of patients that are no-showing at 10%, and you're just looking at your overall no-show rate, you're at like 10%, 12%, like which is average. So the ones that you're paying the most money for, you're actually getting burnt on. And so now you got to get that down. How do I get those people in faster? And then dentists always want to focus on ROI, but ROI is purely driven by not purely, I should say, it's a shared metric. So cost per qualified lead, that's the marketing company's responsibility. Cost per scheduled appointment, that's your front desk's responsibility. Cost per patient walking through the door, that's shared by those two departments. ROI is shared by the whole gamut. And all of them have to be working to get your ROI working together, and the type of treatment that you're focusing on is going to impact your ROI. So if you're looking at if you want a long-term ROI, meaning the patient's going to keep coming back and buying treatment over and over again and referring people to you, typically that's driven through hygiene. Why? Well, because the patient's like, I need a dentist. I just moved into town. What do they think? I got to get my teeth cleaned because that's what we've trained them. Just like the oil change. Got to get my oil change every 4,000 miles or whatever it is now. I think some cars are like 6,000 miles, and you're trained to go do that. Patients are trained the same way. So they may or may not even have problems, but if they come into your office and keep coming back to that hygiene appointment, there's a rule that I learned. It's called 100% case acceptance. As long as that patient keeps coming to you, they will they'll do 100% of their treatment over the next 10 years with you. As long as they keep coming to that. So you get all the treatment from that one patient, which means if you paid $300 to $500 to get them to walk through the door, you're getting $3,000 the first year, $3,000 the second year, right? Like it's like it just adds up, and it's the ROI is amazing. In 10 years, when you look at that, your ROI is out of this world. It's astronomical. Now, but short term, if you're looking at 30-day ROI on that person, it might be 0. Why? Because they were healthy.
How are you calculating that ROI, just high level in your head, Gary? Like when you say ROI, what do you mean?
So the cost of what it costs to generate the new patient, and then how much treatment they're accepting minus the marketing budget again.
Makes sense, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
There's a formula for it if you chat GPT it, but it's not just an even divide. But we track, so you have to have software to be able to track this. You want to follow that patient and look every single month. So if you have a patient come in January, you look at your ROI. I spent $1,000 on marketing. I had one patient come in. They buy no treatment. Your ROI is going to be 0. But over time, if they come back in 6 months, get some treatment done, and they come back in 6 months again, they get some treatment done. Over time, your ROI is going to keep compiling off of that $1,000 that you spent in that given month. That's high, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Gary. We're big believers that there's like 3 pillars of a business. That's ops, finance, and sales and marketing. And you have your purview here. And, when you're talking your model, it's clear that you view it as a partnership, and it needs to be looked at both ways. So how do you find most offices do or should look at the partnership they have with their marketing company in relation to, shared metrics as far as having communication, accountability, all that kind of stuff? I mean, how should a dental office look at their marketing company in that regard?
It's a really good question. Okay, so I've thought about this a lot over the years, and I've looked into what makes a successful office that grows, that turns into what they want to turn into, whether that's $250,000 a month in production or $500,000, whatever it is. What's the common denominator in those offices versus the ones that don't or that end up leaving us? And there's one key thing, and it's the dentist meeting with us at least once a month for 30 minutes.
The dentist.
Here's what happened. The dentist. Has to be the dentist. Here's why. That most dentists punt their marketing because they don't want to deal with it. They don't understand it. They don't like it. And then when you get into sales, like you said, sales and marketing, they want nothing to do with that. So they're like, okay, well, I'm going to give this to Susan, the hygienist. She has an Instagram account, so we'll give her. She's in charge of our marketing.
So true, too. So true.
And it's like, okay, cool. So she's like, let's post on social media. And it's like, okay, that's great. Go post on social media. But we're talking about generating new patients this month, not doing something that may or may not get any traction or get you canceled. Like, I'm not talking about that. We're talking about there's people in your market looking for a dentist today. We're going to try to get them to call your office. The problem is that for that to happen and happen quickly, there's going to be operational changes that Susan has no knowledge of and no authority over. So if I'm like, hey, Susan, you're scheduling these people 3 weeks out, we need to implement block scheduling, which impacts the front desk, impacts hygiene, and impacts the clinical team. Susan's going to go, okay, I'll talk to Doc. Hey, Doc, they wanted to do something with the schedule. Like, I don't know, something, Lego schedule or something. And the doc's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Has no clue, right? There's a major disconnect. And because it's not Susan's fault. It's actually the doctor's fault because they delegated to somebody who doesn't have authority or power. or knowledge over these subjects. So that's just one example. Phone scripting, how you answer questions about insurance, how you answer questions about pricing over the phone, all of these things, right? And this is just top of funnel. Then there's all the bottom of funnel stuff that you have to change as well once you get the data and you learn like, oh, all these patients are coming in. They're from great areas. None of them are accepting treatment. That's another huge change management that has to happen that only the because it touches so many departments, the front desk can't do it, only the business owner can do that. And so the dentist has to be involved to be like, oh, I see that is a problem. I didn't realize that's a problem. Yes, I see that this is the solution to it, and I'm going to work with my team to make that happen because it's going to touch so many different people. If the dentist isn't willing to do that, then you're probably not going to grow, and that's probably why you've been stuck for the last 5 years. And granted, not all marketing companies are going to dig into all this stuff with you, but this is like, and some will. But this is all we do. Like, this is the main thing that we do is like figuring out the operations of the practice and where things are breaking. And you have to do that. Even if you're working with a marketing company now and you're not seeing results, I'd recommend getting on a call and seeing what they're telling you and then digging into it. Like, so I teach my team. Well, I told the doctor their phone conversion's horrible. And I gave them the training, but they haven't given it to their team or they haven't made their team do it. And I go, okay, here's what you do. Take 2 or 3 of their worst calls and text them to him or her and have them listen to them. And what I teach my team is like, it's like watching on the news, like all the government shutdown stuff right now. Government shutdown. It's like, we need a clean resolution. We're, SB 7794 and da-da-da. And we're just like, whatever, bro. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Like the big story, we're like, whatever. But when someone gets on camera and is like, I'm a widow. My husband passed away serving our country. And I have 4 kids and I don't have food because my benefits have been paused, or someone's like, I want to go see my family. They're in a wheelchair and they want to go see their family for Thanksgiving and air traffic control isn't in their places and they can't go see their family. Now, all of a sudden you're putting a face on the problem. And now we feel a little bit different about the problem, right? This is what has to happen in dental offices to get dentists to move typically, is that you have to take the big macro and turn it into a micro, and then they start to move on it. And so that's like my main job is taking those narratives, big picture, and then boiling them down.
So Gary, when you say, I think I've heard you say this before, read this somewhere, is that, when you work with SMC National, like typically we can get 20% more new patients with the same spend. Is that a lot of kind of what you're talking about there, like talking to the dentist in essence, or I'm not putting words in your mouth, or is it other things that
sometimes, yeah, it depends. It depends on the dental office. Like, is that possible? Yes. But that was like a couple years ago, that was true like almost 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. So that was like a big marketing push for us. It's not as true anymore because the playing field has shifted a little bit, meaning like, well, number one, I give all these, like everything that I've given you so far, I have resources on, like literal trainings that you can train your team on. And I'm not the only one doing that. A lot of people are doing that. So it's like, it's leveled the playing field. Just like you guys make content about finances, so now you're dealing with more educated people. Yep. So I have people who come to us and like, Gary, I've already fixed my phone conversion, already fixed my schedule, so they've already operationally milked that thing as much as they could, but they're like, I can't get to the next step though. So more so what I'm dealing with right now is like, Gary, I've been making $200,000 a year forever. I've tried upping my marketing budget, tried shrinking. I've got it as far as I could myself. I have to get to $300,000 by this date to make this make sense, me being a dentist. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm hearing more and more and more of. It's basically what you're doing is you're moving deeper into the chair. So there's, I think a lot of are there still offices out there if they just fix their phones? Will they get more new patients? Yes. But not as many as there were 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. Let's do this, Gary. Let's end on, I'm going to rapid fire, Bill. I'm going to shoot 4 rapid fire at him, and then we'll end on 1 question. You ready? All right, Gary. 1 marketing myth you wish dentists would have finally retire.
1 marketing myth?
Yeah.
a lot of the magic bullet, like I'm going to pay $500 or $1,000 a month and that's going to help me grow. Like that doesn't, there might be somebody out there that's done that once or twice, but typically it's not going to solve, like social media, unless you spend a boatload of money and a boatload of time on it, you're probably not going to get that lift that you want out of it. You're not, has it happened? Yes. But same thing with like, oh, I'm just going to do SEO. Like you can do it and have people done it. Yes. But it's really hard. You're competing for 3 spots and everybody and their mom's competing in your market on that. So understanding that more than likely you're not going to get a magic bullet for $500 to fix all your problems.
So let me tag on to that one. If they were to choose one segment or marketing channel to leverage, what would it be?
I would say the most impactful marketing channel for everybody, probably for our businesses too, is reviews. So the Google reviews that you can get and stack really makes a big difference. For our business, for me, it's like client testimonials that I post in Facebook. Those are the most powerful. I get 500 to 1,000 people to watch that. And then I just get DMs of people just saying like, hey, because it's their language. It's not me saying it, it's a dentist saying it. And so for dentists, getting the patient to say nice things about you on Google makes a huge difference. And there's a couple of ways to think it through that. It's one, you want to have the most reviews on Google as a dentist. Number 2, you might not be able to do that, but that should be your aim. Number 2, you need to keep getting them. Just like keep figuring out. Number 3, motivate your team, not the patient, to leave the review. You should be incentivizing your team, giving them bonuses and things like that to get more Google reviews, not giving away things to the patients. Number 5, I think I'm on number 5, realizing that Google reviews impacts everything. So it's not just new patients, it impacts your patient referrals. You get more patient referrals from it. You also get better employees, right? Like if I'm looking for a job and I get 3 interviews and I can pick a dentist with 1,000 Google reviews, and they're all even pay, 1,000 Google reviews, 100 Google reviews, or 50 Google reviews, which one am I going to pick? Probably going to pick the one with 1,000 Google reviews. It's like it touches every part of your business. Also, same thing when you go to sell. When you go to sell or bring on an associate to be a partner with, guess what Google reviews is going to help you. Like it's definitely not going to hurt you. So it like impacts every part of your business. It helps with SEO. If you send postcards, you're going to get more from your postcards because they're going to go check your Google reviews. Like it impacts every part of your business. That's the number one thing marketing wise that you can do, like bar none.
Love it. Let's end on this one, Gary. Biggest trend you're watching in dental marketing that most practices are missing?
So AI is like the thing, right? Like everybody's using AI, and there's a couple myths. I almost did this one with the myth one that you brought up, but AI is already built into everything. All ads are AI, ran by AI. All CRMs that are measuring the tools and the calls are all ran by AI. All the SEO tools are like AI driven, right? Like everything's AI driven now. So there's very little marketing that's out there. Marketing is kind of the first thing that AI kind of got swallowed up into. And so you have that, but then there's like clinical AI, which is totally different. It's totally different than what dentists are talking about when you're talking about marketing AI. The one thing that you got to be careful of is that there's people who are like, well, AI, you got to do AI marketing. And typically that's like a fear-driven thing. Basically, like I'm just saying this as nice as possible. It's like you can either get somebody to work with you on the to get excited about growing, or I can do it by fear. And AI hasn't, like we measure where all these patients are coming from, Google, ChatGPT. About 1% of patients are coming from the AI bots, and the AI bots are pulling all their information from Google. So right now, which is like if you rank on Google, then more than likely you're going to pop up in all the AI bots too, right? Like that's kind of how it works. Can that change? Can it all shift? Absolutely. And it can shift fast, but we're not there yet, and no one knows what that playing field's going to look like. In fact, right now, Atlas, I don't know if you guys have used Atlas, the browser. It's amazing. It's ChatGPT's new browser. It's really cool. you go into it and you type in dentist Las Vegas, it's going to pull up a dentist. And then if I do it again in another browser, like open up another window, dentist Las Vegas, it's going to give me another one. And then on top of that, ChatGPT, depending on their use rate, will move you to a lower tier. So if you might be using version 5 or version 4 or version 3.8 or whatever, right? So those are going to give you different results, and you don't really know which one they're switching you to based on the usage. You know what I mean? You don't know. They're just switching them on the back end. So you're going to get different like, even if I said, I'm going to give you the best strategy, I don't really know. Like, no one knows yet. Like, so it's still very much wild, wild west. And it's impossible for anybody to be like, I'm going to give you this whole plan. I haven't seen anybody come out and be like, I helped this office grow by doing this. Now, if you do basic SEO and clean up your site and get more Google reviews, answer your phone, schedule properly, you're going to get more new patients no matter what, right? Like, just doing the basics will always give you more lift. So AI is here. It's already integrated into everything. It's integrated on the podcast that we're recording on right now. It makes clips of it and knows the best parts and all that kind of stuff. But it's slowly sleeping into everything. There is no like AI solution app for marketing yet.
Yeah. Speaking of AI, I think we're going to get a lot of good clips from this, right? It'll spit it out at the end, say what the good ones were. So, Gary, I appreciate it, man. We could talk things, all marketing metrics, all day long, man. Just real quick, plug yourself. How can people reach you? We'll put all your stuff in the show notes, but how can everybody reach out to you?
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. And it's been a long time since we've done a podcast together. Sure. So I appreciate you guys doing this. And I would love to do one with you guys. I got it on recording. So hopefully we can figure that out. But yeah, to find me, go to The Gary Bird on social media. I spend my days arguing with dentists about this stuff on Facebook. That's my main job. I tell everybody. So that's it.
I love it. Gary, we appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See ya.